Howdy, y'all. It's Curious Raven on this Thursday with some paranormal stories from more public areas. I hope y'all enjoy. Number 1. I was living in Okinawa, Japan from the age 4 to 7. We bounced around a few apartments but ended up in a military housing. Concrete floors, metal doors, mainly to help with typhoon season. Still, not homey. To set the scene, I had a little TV in my room that my mom would set a timer on. I remember waking up and always watching it shut off. Maybe I was trained to know when, but it was eerie to say the least. I would then see about 7 shadows walk from the window across the room and out my door. My room was on the 2nd floor, so there was no way it was just people's shadows from the outside. I remember laying there in bed terrified under the covers after having seen them. They were all different height and one being particularly short, my height. She had pigtails as well, and I made the connection of her shape to Angelica from the Rugrats. Now I tell my mom that she was in my room at night after being frozen under the covers for God knows how long. I would eventually run across the hall and into my parents' room. I would crawl between them and try to get comfy, only to see just one shadow in their room that I called Seaweed Man. He looked covered in stuff. Getting older, we all kind of realized it may have been a soldier in a ghillie suit. I remember this happening a handful of times, but my parents said it was almost every night. My dad would hear toys going off in the middle of the night. He would get up thinking it was me, but I'd be sound asleep in my room. The area would be ice cold, he said. You know, the classic shit. It's undeniable that I saw. It's undeniable what I saw when I was younger, and it has impacted me so much. I struggled so much in high school just with philosophy on everything. Why are they stuck here? Are they aware? Is energy just repeating itself because they exuded so much fear in one moment? As I got older, it became something too familiar, almost like I missed the fear. And when in areas that may have the same type of thing going on, I can almost smell it. Anyways, hope you enjoyed. And if anyone has ever lived in that area and has had similar experiences, let me know. Number 2. So for context, I work in a very old bank, and it is the last bank left in town. I think the building was originally built so that it could be lived in as a home in case a property didn't sell, but I don't think anyone has ever actually lived in it. This is why I'm on the fence about what we heard. To start, me and my manager were getting ready for the end of the day. It's a small branch, and only 2 to 3 people are working at a time. We were silently working on our computers behind the teller line when I heard blatant footsteps in the lobby. The first thing I did was look over at my manager to see if she was still standing there, but she looked at me as well. She asked me if I had heard the same thing, and I said yes. Those are definitely footsteps. Since we work in the bank, our first train of thought was that someone may have snuck inside. Obviously, we got a little scared. My manager walked through the first floor and verified no one was there. We also have an upstairs, which is locked and used for holiday decoration storage. So she checked upstairs and found nada. She told me she was going to call security guy after we left. I joked that it was a ghost and we both agreed it was super creepy. Moved on with our day and left. Then she sends me a message like an hour later telling me the person who had come in to clean a couple of days ago had also heard footsteps and voices. He had reported it to a security guy as well, which was how she found out. After what had happened with the cleaning guy, a different manager had gone to the branch 2 days ago after hours to check it out, and he swears he shut the light off upstairs, but then it was turned back on. Obviously, this second happening could have just been a honest mistake. I think I do things all the time when I didn't actually, like turning a light off. The first thing I did was ask my manager if the building had an attic. I've heard too many horror stories of people discovering that someone had been living in their attic after hearing random footsteps and voices. Nope, no attic, just a crawl space to get to the HVAC. Anyways, I'm super creeped out now. I'm convinced that my work is haunted. I think I'm going to go upstairs next shift and pull a Zach Bagans. If you're here, show me a sign. And hopefully it doesn't throw a Christmas tree at me. Number 3. This recounting of my personal experience is 100% factual. I never embellish. It involves real events and suicide. It was 2010. I was at Fort Drum, New York. My unit, 1st Brigade Support Battalion, just got back from deployment, and we were doing 24 guard duty at the barricade. One guy that was there a lot ended up becoming well known by us in our unit. Every time I'd be on guard duty, I'd talk with the guy. There was nothing else for me to do except watch movies or talk to the other guy I did on guard duty with or him. So I talked with the guy a lot, and eventually he told me his story. He said that he was upset because his unit was deployed and he'd been held back on what's called Rear D because of some psych problems that kept him from deploying. He said the Army was looking into his case and that he was planning on deploying sometime later. He told me the unit he was attached to was the second unit he was attached to. The first unit deployed without him because of the same problem, and a couple people he knew died. We rotated out with 24-hour duty, and after some weeks it became my turn again. I remember not seeing the guy after thinking about him and getting up, looking all around the building for me to talk with him and see how he was. I felt bad for him in his situation. And I remember not seeing him. I went back and sat next to the other guard on duty and asked about what was going on with the guy and why he wasn't there. He told me the news. He just found out that he was not going to be deployed again. I think I might have thought that I'd seen him again. It was some time soon after that I was just getting home after working in the DFAC near 5th Armored Dive Drive. I got to my barracks and noticed police cruisers with their lights in front of the barracks next to ours. That's where the unit he was attached to stayed. I probably didn't think much of it and went on to my room. At the time, it was a new barracks where you have your room that you share with one other person. But then you have your own personal room and your neighbor has his own personal room. Just to give you an idea of the room. My room size was just big enough for one bed along the back wall, one desk just before the bed, and one dresser near, but to the left of the foot of the bed. The room also had a closet to the other side of the dresser. And it was late night, so I'm just about to go to bed. I get changed, turn the lights off, and turn the TV off. I never even closed my eyes. I hear a dog growl coming from my closet. Dogs aren't allowed. But it wasn't a dog because there was not a dog in my closet. I immediately sat up with my feet on the ground, sitting on the side of my bed, when I seen an orange orb form near my door and shoot past my head, going across the room in a second. Without hesitation, I got up and went to my window to see if it was a car. But then it occurred to me that the closest road was on the other side of the field and a good distance away, possibly 200 feet away, and the trees lined the road in front of the field. There would not have been any way that a car could have caused that. Plus, I remember the blinds being down. The thing that's real effed up, the next morning, we're a morning formation, and the first sergeant put out. There was a suicide in the barracks right next to us. If anybody knows the person, there's counselors available. To recount, this still makes me choke up. Also, I remember the counting vividly because I tell it over and over, but there's always people that don't believe in ghosts. But I also write down my experiences to limit the inaccuracy and to be as factual as possible, which I suggest others to do as well. Number 4. I just recently, after a decade of denial, admitted to myself that the things I've seen, heard, felt, and known without explanation are not something that makes me a madman. I have been working multiple night shifts at a historical business for years. I know men have both worked and devoted their lives to this place, and some lost their lives here. I know some of them never stopped doing their jobs and respect it. But I'd rather not be startled to the point of fight or flight every time someone or something wants to announce their presence. I definitely know one presence I experience frequently is a previous owner of the property and business. He tends to just follow me around the facility and I can hear his footsteps. I work 12-hour shifts, and most of the time, I'm the only employee at the facility for days at a time. I used to brush this stuff off as nothing. But after recently accepting this, maybe this shit is real. It's getting more frequent and more intense. I'm not freaked out by the experiences themselves, but the increased frequency and what I believe to be multiple entities is starting to get to me. Anyone know why I've had this sudden surge in awareness? I've always had premonitions that were unexplainable and excellent judgment of character. But now I am seeing dead people. They're not scary. They don't care if I'm here at all. Because I'm not. I'm not where they are. We're just crossing paths, maybe. I don't know. This shit is weird and it's making me feel crazy. Number 5. I'm sorry, but I feel sick and I don't know where else to get this out here. This just happened and I'm in shock, but I try to recount the best that I can. So I work in a tiny town at the local post office. I'm the only person there and know just about everyone by name. I have a few regulars that come in and I speak to a little, just the usual hellos and small talk. Today was no different. I spoke to my regulars as usual. I specifically remember speaking to one older lady who I'll call N, comes in near the end of my shift every day around 3:45 to 4 p.m. every day. It's now 9:30 p.m. I'm at home and I overheard my parents talking about a car accident that happened right outside the town I work at, where an 87-year-old woman was killed and the name was just released. It was N. It happened this morning at around 6 a.m. But I know damn for sure I spoke to her today. It was a quick hello and have a good evening, but I know I fucking did. I feel like I'm going crazy. I don't even believe in ghosts that much or give it much thought, but what the fuck. I'm sorry for all the typos and shit, but I just gotta put this out there somewhere. Number 6. Many years ago, I belonged to a volunteer fire company in Oxford, Connecticut. One of the elder statesmen in the firehouse, Carlton, grew up in the same town I did, about 30 miles away. We became quite close because of this. A few years into my membership, Carl had gotten sick and passed away. I was one of the ones in the FD chosen to be a pallbearer. Carl always wore tan trousers and had a different color polo shirt every day. He was buried in tan trousers and a navy blue polo with our FD logo on it. Late one night, I was the last one in the firehouse just finishing up some paperwork and manpower reports for the chief's office. The rule was last one to leave has to make sure the house was secure. It was around 10:30 to 11 o'clock when I started my rounds to make sure all was locked up. When I came out of the meeting room onto the apparatus floor, Carl came out of the men's room in his tan trousers and polo shirt about 15 feet away from me. I saw him with my very own eyes. It was so real, I even called his name. He didn't look at me or even acknowledge me, just walked behind the engine towards the back of the house. By the time I got back behind the engine, I saw him turn the corner towards the back bays. I called out Carl again. By this time I got out there, he was gone. I know I saw him. He loved the Oxford Fire Department so much. My guess is he couldn't leave. Number 7. I know how this sounds, but hear me out. My sister and I lived together as roommates. August of 2023, 6 months ago, we moved into a new apartment. Well, new to us. The building itself was built in the 70s, but that's just fine with us because it means that the rent is $400 less than our old place. We've known for a while that this place is probably haunted. It's mostly just, did I see that? Type encounters. Shadows out of the corner of our eyes. I have often said that it feels like one entity, and it feels female. One night, while laying in bed, I saw a glowing yellow figure walk past me. But of course, it was gone when I looked. Two encounters really stand out. Number 1, I saw a shadow walk out of my room and down the hallway. And when I looked to see what it was, my sister said, "You saw that too, right?" So it wasn't just me. Number 2, my sister was in the bathroom off the hallway and saw something walk past the door so clearly that she thought it was me and called out to it, only to realize her mistake when I answered from the living room. This morning takes the cake. We have a dog, a 40-pound split mix. It's just a sweetheart of a girl. Can be a bit of a prima donna sometimes. He sleeps in my room with me, in our own bed. This morning, I was in the bathroom getting ready, like I do every morning. This wasn't enough for my dog, but she is very eager to go out of the room and start our day. I could hear her outside of my bathroom. I have an ensuite, doing her little tippy-tappy dance. I then heard what I thought was my sister talking to her. I sleep with the fan on for noise, so it wasn't that odd that I didn't hear the door open. I couldn't make out a lot of my sister said, except I could hear her say, "You need to wait," to my impatient dog. I even called out to my sister's name, but I didn't get a response. I finish, I leave the room, and hear my sister greet my dog from her room. There, I thought, it was her. So I go in and only to find her still in bed. Now my sister isn't the get up, then go back to bed for 10 minutes kind. Once she's up, and it made no sense for her to be in my room and then go back to bed, as her alarm was about to go off. Just to be sure, I asked if she had been in my room. As expected, she answered no. So apparently my dog has been making friends with the local ghost. Enough that it feels free to scold her when she's being a little shit. Just because I know people will ask, we have people below and above us, but I only sometimes can hear them talking, and only when it's quiet. Even then, it's very muffled than what I heard, and it definitely came from the same room, not above or below. Also, we're both just fine with sharing our home with a benign spirit. That is the end of the stories today. I hope y'all enjoyed. Also, I wanted to kind of get y'all ready for next week. I don't know if there's going to be any videos. I might do on Thursday or Saturday, sometime in those days, a compilation of true crime videos that I did on my other channel, so y'all could hear them too. But I am going out of town to take care of my mother for about a week because she is having hip surgery. Anyways, I love y'all so much. I hope y'all have a really great day. I will see you on Saturday for Creepypasta Day. But until then, remember it's scary out there. Please like and subscribe.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross